Okay, so we are officially recording our podcast thingy, which is apparently how all of these are going to start. And I think on this episode of Wizards with Shotguns, we have our first episode of Wizards with Shotguns. We have 2 different cures for cancer, you're welcome. And we have community questions that we're answering from Kinsuimo and from Mobius.
Well, definitely from Mobius, and maybe Consuemo if I can make sense of any of them. I'm looking through them right now.
Okay.
He's generally... It's like taking a question from Vice.
You have to have a really high IQ to understand a Kinsuimo question.
To appreciate a Vice comment.
Vice is a prophet, man. He speaks in tongues.
Yeah. And Ken is some sort of seer, so I don't know.
Well, he's the samurai meerkat in the Fever Dream.
Yep. I mean, this one makes sense, but I usually have to think about it, because he does the thing that Associative Horizon type of people do, where he'll use strange words and sentence constructions and so on, because you're just feeling your way around the thing, right?
Mm-hmm.
You aren't just summarizing something that somebody else already said.
Okay.
Or maybe they did already say it, but if you're like me, you haven't read it, because reading is degenerate.
Yeah. Who reads nowadays? Nobody. 0 people read.
Fags.
You can't get a big neck if you read. Your neck shrinks, then your head falls off your shoulders.
Virgins read, Chads know.
Yes. Chads acts. They just do things. They don't even know why. They don't have to know why.
That's right.
Killer instincts. Okay.
There's got to be a Chad virgin Chad.
There is a Chad virgin Chad. I might find that
Chads
for you.
are real virgins.
Put it in the comment thing. So, if you paste your Kinsuimo questions in the little document here, I'll read the questions and we'll see how we answer them.
Okay. You want to take us through the cures for cancer while I'm figuring out how to use my phone?
I wanted to save that for later. This is not clickbait. I have 2 cures for cancer. I just picked them up off the side of the road. They're still good though.
All right, because the questions are in text.
It's like reverse AIDS. That's your hint.
All right, we have to be entertaining. This is too much logistical stuff. We might have to cut a bunch of that.
Oh no, I don't edit shit. Once we're rolling, it's gone forever. You're not allowed. I'll start.
You might have noticed I left a gaping 2-minute silence on the end of that when I disturbed Patrick.
I got sent there by Glossally, yeah. It's like, this is when he fell asleep, so I had to check it.
I cut off the first half of that, and I guess I just didn't listen to it again. And I was like, ship it.
If it bleeds, it leads. Whatever. Just do it. Well, you gotta...
In my defense, I was drinking
things.
wine at the time, and I can't hold my wine for some reason.
If you don't do things, then you don't do anything.
Yep.
That's just how it
That's
works.
why all my shit is flawed. It's not... It's because I'm a Chad.
You don't...
It's too Chad to fix all my shit.
If you wanted to make it perfect, you would never get anything out. If you wanted to make it great, you would only be able to do 1 post a month. So you gotta just be good enough. You gotta aim for great, and if it's good, then it's good enough. That's my philosophy.
Right, and then you can make it great again.
Yeah, there you go.
Because then if you think about it, it was always great.
You stick a ball cap on it. That's gonna have to be a thing. You just go to statues and things, it's like, this statue is good, but what if we stuck a ball cap on it? MAGA hat on...
what, you mean a MAGA hat?
On the thinker or whatever? The guy on the toilet. And then you have the lady with no arms, and you're like, well, this lady has no arms, but what if we stick a MAGA hat on it? Oh, it's amazing now.
Making arms great again.
Yeah. But hashtag respect our vets. Lost both your arms in the war.
Yes, we respect the vets and the Vaughn.
Okay, well, while you're looking for the Mobius or for the Kinsuimo questions, you want to go through the Mobius questions, or is that
Yeah,
too
sure.
much? Okay. So, Mobius question 1 is: has anybody correlated the different types with IQ? Are there thalls and melons in the nether reaches? I'm guessing, on the extreme high and the extreme low, are there thalls and melons?
Okay. This is an interesting question. The reason I got into Edenism, so the first answer is sort of. Has anybody correlated the different types with IQ? The reason I got into Edenism is because I was trying to answer a particular question which Koenig answered, which is, what's the deal with people who are intelligent but not adaptive? I saw there's a particular graph in the bell curve that one of these days I am going to go back and copy out, which showed that in this one particular trait, having a high IQ did not, like having the very highest IQ, so being in the top centile, was not correlated with higher success. The correlation reversed. So usually when people in the IQ research community are looking at this stuff, the orthodoxy says that all traits or all adaptivity correlates positively. There is no maladaptivity in the upper ranges because the correlations are very strong in the middle ranges, the big bulk, where most people fall, like within 2 standard deviations of the mean.
Yeah.
It's always positive. So it's always better to have a high IQ than a lower IQ if you're in those ranges. So I was, trying to square that with the sort of stereotypical issues that people run into with high IQs. My anecdotal experience, and this one, there was a niggling doubt, right? I was trying to figure out what was the deal with people becoming maladaptive in the higher ranges. And Koenig linked to that Tower Graves, I think is the guy's name. I've got it in my sidebar now as a prerequisite to my blog. It's an article about from the Prometheus Society about like how the likelihood, although people in the upper ranges are still fairly adaptive, it starts to drop off. So the correlation becomes negative after about 125 IQ. So once you start getting into the Mensa range, for instance, then most of the people are still adaptive, but you are more likely as IQ increases to become maladaptive. So I was trying to answer that question, and Koenig provided the answer, which was the Melonhead and Neanderthal theory, which says in the upper ranges you have people with a vastly different set of traits. So it's a different mode of existence or a different phenotype or however you want to describe that. And these are the people specifically who are maladaptive. They have such and such mean IQ. So you find a much larger number of them in the upper ranges, which means that at the higher that you go up, the more of these people you find, and those people specifically are maladaptive versus, say, Melonhead, which is typically not. They're typically very adaptive, and in fact, you find that they're often extremely charismatic.
So
despite
so the idea is
IQ
that there's
communications gap.
kind of a second population that is hidden in the main population, and those people have issues, and those people also tend to cluster in the upper ranges, which is why you see this phenomenon. Is that about right?
That's about right. It's not that they cluster in the upper ranges. It's that because of the higher average, once you get in the upper ranges, you're going to find an overrepresentation of them there. Okay. So it's like the JQ. You find Jews and Asians are overrepresented at the tails for the same reason.
Okay.
And what you were finding is that, like you're saying, there's going to be another population that's hidden inside of the bigger population. and that population is adaptive.
So repeat that last
what you can say from that is, okay, there is a population of people with social instincts that are not adaptive, that has a higher mean IQ, so that in the upper ranges on the right tail of the bell curve, you're going to find more of those people.
Okay.
And that they're going to be overrepresented, such high IQ people are going to tend to be maladaptive more often. Now that's aside from the issue of the IQ gap, or the IQ communications gap, which produces another form of alienation. So what we're probably looking at here is multiple factors. But as we've seen from the extraordinary adaptation of a lot of people in the high IQ ranges, Trump would actually be a good example of that.
Yeah.
It's the communications gap is not necessarily debilitating. A lot of people in that range are extremely charismatic. And that's when you start talking about the difference. Like, do you need another racial type to explain that difference, or is it just like that's what really intelligent humans are like? Is they're just more charismatic as well?
And actually, Trump has a good thing about this, because he used to use bigger words in interviews and things, and then he realized that people didn't care and it wasn't getting his message across. So he started talking in elementary school language and did a lot better. So he's like, this works, this does not work, I will do what works. And that was the kind of the origin of his, I have the big words, I have the best words, the most amazing words, I have the biggest words, but I don't use them. Like, there was a reason for that.
Yeah, it's a good strategy. He was Chad before it was cool.
So, there is...
I never did a question, though, did I?
So you said there is kind of a correlation of the different types with IQ in the sense of averages of a subpopulation thing. Yeah,
in the sense that question was already there, and this is a potential explanation for it, and that's why I got into the thing in the first place, is because it explained that. And then, the theory explains a bunch of other things that I was confused about, but I wasn't seeking out answers to those. It was just everything clicked all at once. That's how I got into it.
Now, would you say it had more predictive power than other things you'd encountered previously?
I haven't seen any others. You could stick strictly to the IQ communications gap like Vox does, but that doesn't predict the people who are extremely charismatic. It doesn't predict... I mean, you could describe that as a skill which those people in particular learn, but why is that 60% of the people in the upper ranges? That doesn't make any sense.
Right. Okay. And then the second question is, just how much can you teach a Sape?
Well, hold on. I actually got to answer this question. So the answer is kind of for that first one.
Okay.
Has anybody correlated it? You can correlate population intelligence with Neanderthal admixture. So yes, there's a lot of genetic studies coming out right now which basically says that Neanderthal admixture is the source of intelligence. So yes, in that sense, not with melons, because we don't actually have anything that we could call a genome for melonheads.
Okay.
Or at least, I think Brian Forster does. I think that they are actually they have the DNA, and they're doing whatever it is to process that genome, but nobody's run any statistical analysis on it, certainly not for intelligence.
So we have some Thal genes, we might have some melon genes, but we're not quite sure. People have kind of correlated the different types with IQ, but it's a little fuzzy. And
yeah, it's a little fuzzy.
And I'm guessing that since there are Thals and melons in the upper regions, and you're talking about a higher average, there is conceivably Thals and melons in the lower regions as well.
And that's just going to follow from population distributions. It's not like being a Neanderthal release bell curve, right? Neanderthals, if you have a population of pure Neanderthals, they're still going to have their own bell curve. They're still going to have their own population of retards.
Yeah. It doesn't release you from the bell curve, you're saying.
Right. If you're a Neanderthal that's got some sort of brain damage that reduces your IQ, then sure, you could be on the left end of that bell curve.
Mm-hmm.
So it's not just defined people are wont to do with these sorts of typology systems.
Yeah, it's not we're the best because that's who we are. That's how
we're the best
work.
Because we're defined as the best. Anything that's good is defined as what we are, and everything we are is what's good. And nah.
So if it's not good, it's not us. It doesn't count. No true Scotsman would be pants on head retarded. That just can't exist. Okay, so that's that first question. The reason I'm asking you to repeat yourself every now and then is you're cutting out here and there. It's not bad.
Okay.
So when you have when everything is good, your voice is great, and then occasionally it does the just cut out and come back in.
All right.
So that's that.
Continue.
So the next question is just how much can you teach a Sape? Dr. Aioli, your thoughts?
That's going to depend on how much they want to learn, and it's going to depend on IQ. So the easier one to answer is IQ, and that comes down to what is the IQ of a Sape defined as? So if you're talking unmixed Homo sapiens from sub-Saharan Africa, no Neanderthal influence whatsoever, then you're probably looking at you in the 65 range. And so the answer to the question, how much can you teach them, is in the context of a modern society, basically nothing. So if you compare this to the typical, this goes back to that statistic that Jordan Peterson uses from the Army, which says that you can't, in the context of a modern society, you cannot teach a person with an IQ lower than 83 on the average, with exceptions, but more often than not, it's not worth spending the time or money to teach someone with an IQ less than 83 to do anything at all, because they're not going to give you a net positive return on that.
Yeah, it actually costs you
on
money
average
to make them dig ditches.
Which you might do anyway because it keeps them from, joining the rape gangs or whatever. Yeah. Right, but in terms of you can't make a profit off them, no matter what kind of schooling you put them in. Mm-hmm. And so if you're talking about an average of 65, standard deviation of 15, that's going to put your standard deviation marker at 80. And then a little bit higher than that is so that 80 is going to cover, that means that you've got about, I think it's 85% lower than 80. Mm-hmm. And that means anybody above that is going to be your talented 10th, basically, who can be taught to do such prestigious and worthwhile work as they're going to be on the low end of janitor performance, low end of precision machine operatives. So that'd be your CNC, where the average IQ is going to be around about 95, 98.
Yeah.
And so, you can teach a person to do that, but even if they've got an IQ of 80, they're certainly not going to do it well. They're not going to, probably not going to pay for themselves to the employer. Even if their job is just to babysit a machine, push two buttons.
Yeah. You'd have to get somebody to babysit them. After.
Right.
And if you're getting somebody to babysit the guy that's babysitting the machine, why not just cut out the middleman and have the babysitter guy that's babysitting both of these things just get the one thing?
Right. So then, keeping in mind this is your talented 10th here. If you're going even higher than that, so let's say you need somebody to be a relatively high-level buyer or purchasing agent, where the average is going to be about 103, it looks like. Mm-hmm. That's going to be about 2.5 standard deviations above 65. Am I getting that right? Yeah, about 2.5. So that's going to put you well into the 1 in 1,000. Mm-hmm. Just
These
about.
Are you're getting to the cream of the crop
white IQ,
here.
you're talking. Yeah, for white IQ, that's about 138. That's where I'm at. Mm-hmm. And so the answer basically is you can't teach them, and that's assuming that they want to learn in the first place.
So the answer is slightly less than Coco the gorilla.
Significantly less in this case.
Okay,
I think Coco
significantly less than Coco the gorilla.
I want to say that Coco was at 90.
That's really bad.
I mean, yeah, well, it's unfortunate is what it is.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's
okay,
one of those situations with no good answer because people don't really want to go just like, well, let's just turn them into fertilizer. You don't want to do it that way. You can't really just be like, well, just starve to death and then, whoever's left can probably run their country. People feel bad about those things. But the answer is definitely not, well, let's keep pouring resources down this black hole until it consumes everything around us, because that's just no good for anyone.
So obviously that's exactly what we do.
Right. That's the option that is employed. Because that's how the world works for some reason. And it's like, well,
I don't want to get too black-pilled, but I have some theories about that.
If I'm pouring down resources down a black hole, can I get some kickbacks during it? All right, cool. Yeah, I'll do that. As long as I can skim off of the, garbage heap, I'm okay.
Well, it's the loosh harvest, but like I said, I don't want to get too black-pilled, especially because this is already kind of a rough subject.
Oh shit! Yeah, this was actually I was planning on having an appreciation bit to just focus on some nice things. So we'll do that after these questions, I guess.
Yeah. Okay. So I gotta hit the second component of what I was talking about, which is whether or not you can teach Sapes and whether or not they would want to learn. And that there's going to be a significant resistance to that because as a constitutional matter. So if you put somebody with a lot of black admixture in a white civilization, they're going to understand at a very deep level that any articulated standard of behavior, any expectations that are spoken out loud work against their interest because they're much better at anticipating unarticulated expectations for behavior. So, so in terms of what they're good at, white people are still better at this because of the mixture of Neanderthal and sapiens, but black people are very good at unarticulated systems of behavior. And I think this goes back to something in perception, which is still... Well, why not? I'll get into it. So there's this idea from perception that if...
We might have to move on because we've got a bunch of questions in here.
Okay. Shoot. Well, it's an interesting topic, but basically humans will oppose the articulation of any sort of standards of behavior. They'll resist laws, which are effectively articulated standards of behavior. And they do not like these things because they work against their genetic interests. And you can see this come out in white people too when they oppose the study of psychology categorically. Which that gets back into the Chad meme stuff, but that's all tangential.
Okay.
It is effectively an opposite. They are opposed generally to labeling behaviors, types, any sort of labeling at all.
Why you got to analyze this stuff so much? That kind of thing?
Exactly.
Okay, so in conclusion for this question, how much can you teach a Sape? Significantly less than Coco the gorilla, and that's assuming he even wants to be taught.
Yep.
Fair?
Yeah, and if you're talking about African Americans, well, you might have some hope because you're talking 85 average.
Yeah, there you go.
But even so, still not a lot.
We civilized them with basketball and rap music.
Ugh.
Okay, so this was a statement, not necessarily a question. I'll put a question mark on it just so it counts. If the goal is peace on Earth, somebody has to control the Sapes, I guess?
Possibly. Although I haven't seen anybody demonstrate an ability to do that except, who knows, maybe the Chinese will be giving us a lesson in that in the next century or so.
Mm-hmm.
A far more brutal lesson than I think anybody's going to be comfortable with.
Well,
they make the Jews look nice.
Rhodesia worked, apparently, for a significant period of time until they were subjugated by the British. That's what I hear. Is that you have your ruling minority, and you have your minority of people. You have the majority of people that can't govern themselves. You have the minority governing them, and there are some harsh crackdowns, but everybody has electricity and running water, so you kind of just, that's how it's got to work. And in Africa, there was one place where the only road was the road leaving to and from the diamond mine. So there was this Chinese diamond mine, and they had roads for that, and they had workers for that, and they treated them significantly worse than, the white people treated them. But it still worked. So I guess what ends up happening is you have a conquered slave people, but still at least a semi-functional conquered slave people, which doesn't sound great.
Yeah, and anyway, I'm kind of skeptical that.
Pick your own damn cotton.
I'm skeptical of African history as a general thing.
Mm-hmm.
Let me just say that.
Yeah. There's a lot of misinformation and people trying to push a narrative anywhere near that stuff.
People trying to convince you that they weren't Kangs.
We was Kangs. We built the pyramids. We were the Pharisees, and we were also the Jews. I did not figure that one out. Don't ask me to explain that contradiction, but we was Bosism. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a general thing. That's kind of an example, though, of articulation. But anyway, never mind.
So the answer to that is maybe, probably. It might not work, but you could try it.
Oh, controlling the Sapes? I expect it's not. If you're talking about the unmixed, no hybridization, I expect it's not worth the effort, even if you're Chinese, and even if you're absolutely brutal. Like the Chinese will probably end up bringing in their own, right? Because they're very comfortable brutalizing each other, and there's just a lot less work involved. You can get a lot more done. So in terms of profit, probably that's
okay. And that is
now. Let's say some melonhead decides to take it upon himself to do the right thing, because actually his genetic interest is to have a lot of people around to unleash on his neighbors.
And really, peace on Earth is kind of amenitizing the eschaton there. The peace on Earth is the mythical afterlife kind of thing. Peace on Earth has not really worked very well in practice in the world. So I don't think the goal... it's going to be... You might want to get a different goal. You might want to get your walled garden and leave it at that.
Yeah, that's like saying if the goal is to eliminate sexual competition between people. It's like,
good luck with that, motherfucker.
Happen.
Welcome to hell. Okay, so if subsuming the Neanderthal made Sapes more than he was, wasn't he also more than Neanderthal was? I think this is kind of, if you're Sapes and Neanderthal, it's a 2-for-1, which is more. 2 is more than 1.
So I suppose, in the spirit of the question, which is, like, if adding these things together, you get more than the sum of the parts, then isn't there something good to be said about what's...
Say again?
And I think... So if adding one set of virtues and vices to another set of virtues and vices, you get this supreme Cro-Magnon character who takes over the entire Earth. Isn't there something good to be said about the virtues of the sapiens?
Yeah.
Or he might even just be saying, like, doesn't the right of conquest mean that, like, he deserved it?
Yeah.
And
It's
Neanderthal just deserved to die because he was weak.
So it's kind of like, okay, when you fuse them together, did you get a bionic man that had all of the strengths, or did you just get a weird mutant thing that is gross? Is it more, or is it not?
And basically, the answer is no.
Okay. This is not the bionic man.
No. There are some good things about that fusion that came out, but generally, this is going to be really harsh, but generally the white race was not a good idea.
Oh man, anime was a mistake.
Yeah, I know I know that's really black pill, but what I'm getting at here is that it's not a good mix of traits.
I think I might disagree with that one. I think I like. I can't hate my race right now just out of principle. So clearly,
I don't either.
there are
I'm
good
not even
things.
saying.
It was a great idea.
Like I'm still going to advocate for my people, and I'm still on their side.
Mm-hmm. But you're just like, you know what? This wasn't the best idea, but now that we're here, we might as well make the best of this bad idea.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So that is the answer to that question. It is, not really. Are we supposed to try teaching the Sapes to reason? Is that even possible? We've covered the incel question.
They
now
already
we're covering
can.
the Sapes question.
Sapes question. They already can reason as they grow up. They just don't like to, and they're disingenuous.
Mm.
So, the disinclination to reason is why they don't get anywhere in, say, the field of logic. Mm-hmm. Whereas you put that in front of somebody with Asperger's at the age of 12, and they're going to think it's the best idea they've ever heard of.
Yeah, this ties into Bice's idea is that everybody they just gravitate where they want to be. So, like, bankers end up in banks and they think it's heaven. Like, Warren Buffett is eating McDonald's and working 8 hours a day at his investment firm, and he loves it. That's his heaven. The Cro-Magnon ends up in jail, and it's like, oh, it's like high school all over again. What are all these nice, strict rules?
Which is...
you have to exercise, and you get to fuck people that come in, they just bring them into you because you killed somebody, and they're all like, oh, man, take my baby. And that's where the world works. And the other guy's like in a tree stump going, man, this tree stump's pretty cool, man. I could live here. Yeah,
I think there was a lot of truth in that.
So
the answer is they already know how to reason. Like, they have the neural structure for it. Yeah. They just don't develop it because it's not what they enjoy, right? Like, Neanderthals enjoy articulating knowledge. It's, I dare say, the distinguishing characteristic of the breed is writing down or saying things. I remember somebody made a joke back in the day on Steve Saylor's site, which is when autists are involved, nothing is unspoken.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so verbalizing and explicating as much as possible implicit or unwritten rules.
Yeah, nothing goes without saying. That's what he said.
That can get you spurging, and that can get you physics, and it's just, what people choose for a hobby at that point.
Yeah. So, yes, you can teach them the reason, but they don't want to, and...
So you're probably not supposed to. It's not a moral obligation here.
Yeah, there's going to be that IQ ceiling. So you're not gonna teach somebody with an IQ of 65 calculus, no matter how long you spend.
It takes two to have these teaching relationships.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So, yes, it's possible. No, you're not supposed to. They've got enough of it anyway. Okay. So, the next question is, it's pretty evident what happens when the Sapes go R. How R do you think a Thal can go? Did Thal genes KFI Sapes? And so that's two different rabbit holes to go through.
Yeah. And I sort of disagree with the statement that's evident what happens when the Sapes go R. I think our experience of that is colored by what happens to white people when they go R.
Mm-hmm.
which is, using Cro-Magnon and white people interchangeably.
Yeah.
We see how they rabbit, whereas Sapes is already just R-selected from our perspective, versus like African Americans went somewhat K back in the day, although they went R again after their family structure completely broke down, back in the civil rights era. How R do you think a tall can go? The answer is quite, probably more than we would expect.
I would expect to see them at pride parades.
Yeah, I would too. And I have a great example for this back in the day on my blog, where I showed a video creator on YouTube who had made some like really funny stuff and also some really disgusting stuff. Mm-hmm. And I showed like the shape of his head was very Neanderthal. It was on bomb. It was huge. Mm-hmm. And he was very sensible in presentation when he was just speaking to the camera. But the jokes that he made in some of the videos, I'll find the title of this thing. Where it was extremely degenerate. Like I remember saying that I was ashamed of having it on the blog just because it was so gross.
So we'll link this in the comments or something.
Yeah.
The thing you're talking about.
And I expect that is, where our selection comes from in general is dopamine-seeking behavior and sort of getting out of control, right?
Degenerate shit.
Well, degenerate shit generally comes from novelty-seeking after you're saturated with dopamine.
Oh, okay.
So that's where you get...
You're talking about once
a lot of the stuff that...
Once the porn stops working, you have to do the really gay shit and you have to do the really gross stuff to keep getting your rocks off, because you're already basically at the top edge. It's like a drug resistance kind of thing.
Yeah. That's where I think that comes from.
Okay.
But our selection itself is generally the dopamine saturation. Mm-hmm. And Neanderthals can be subject to that. And I think that is part of the explanation for why about 3/4 of like IT nerds and mathematicians and people on the very high end of mathematical what's the word? Potential,
capability,
ability, aptitude. That's the one I was going for. People on the very high end of mathematical aptitude, about 3/4 are leftists, and I think that a lot of that can be explained by their having enough economic success. Spiral. They do the dopamine saturation spiral.
All right, so having enough economic success, and what did you say again?
Reproductive success. So these are the ones who made it. Okay, so I want to back off on this a little bit, because I think you can separate Neanderthals into two very distinct types: those who respond well to education and those who definitely do not. So
that's an understatement.
You and I are familiar with the experience of not responding well to education, versus somebody who considers that like they have the Harry Potter kind of view of education, which is that this is home. This is where I get to escape from all the dominance hierarchy stuff and just enjoy learning, right?
With
where
my
we
friends.
have more of the whereas we're more of the fuck you, I'll do what I want.
You little prick, you'll learn to do what you're told if we have to lock you in a closet for 8 weeks. And it's like, well, no, still no.
So I think that's probably a more important divide in terms of like which ones go into that dopamine spiral. But even so, like you could have a leftist who doesn't go that way. And what's really curious, I think, is that you see the ones who do, so really Neanderthal shifted people who do the holiness spirals or the dopamine spirals, get Parkinson's. That and I think that's from the dopamine oversaturation.
So there's like a neurological damage that happens to staying on that high all the time.
Yeah, I think our brains are not adapted for it.
I could see that.
So
we're not supposed to be wireheading. We're supposed to be doing stuff and becoming better. And sometimes that sucks, so it levels you out, it grounds you.
Yeah, I think that's what happened. So, I don't know. That's a theory. I know there are analogs for that sort of reaction, but I can't remember what they are at the moment.
Okay, so circling that back around to the question. Thaws could go pretty damn R, depending. It's like a systemic environmental response. So, it still goes pretty far. Did Thal genes KFI Sapes? Yeah, kinda, sorta.
I would say yes.
Okay, so yes.
And you can see that in microcosm with African Americans.
Okay, so you can compare African Americans with African Africans.
Yep, and you get a very case-shifted population in comparison. So, a great deal more emphasis on, we'll say K philosophy, like striving against destiny, that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm.
A bit more self-awareness, a bit more, we'll say, tendency to articulate knowledge versus opposing that entirely.
Yeah.
Especially in the upper ranges of that with the woke ass niggers.
Okay.
I think a really good example would be somebody like Walter Williams, who looks and acts very white and tries to teach the black community to, do something other than raping and killing each other, and generally not getting a warm reception for his efforts. But
yeah, there was some guy. So this is not just that kind of thing. It's a pattern that repeats in other areas. So there was a dude that was like the gay man doctor. He was the gay doctor. He was gay himself, and he set up he was a researcher that set up a practice. And he noticed a hell of a lot of, I think, Hodgkin's sarcoma or something like that. This was basically kind of the groundwork that discovered AIDS. And what he was finding out was he'd be like, dude, what is going on? You have all these tumors and sicknesses and things. Well, I just fuck everyone all the time, and I do it while I have 800 drugs in my system, and I'm getting all sorts of diseases, doc, but I ain't gonna stop.
Makes you think.
Yeah, and so there were various gay artists. One guy did a play talking about we all got to stop fucking ourselves to death. We got to calm down on this a little bit. And his play bombed, and he got written out of the gay community because nobody wanted to hear that. Nobody wants, like, we got the vote, let's stop voting, as far as like women's suffrage kind of thing. All of these gay people were like, we can finally fuck people in public. We're not going to not do that. We're going to celebrate by a ginormous countrywide orgy. Of course, that's how you do it. If you can't go, if the robot demon men are killing you when you go to the surface, so you have to live underground, and for the first time you can finally live above ground, you're not going to just live in the dirt out of principle. You're going to build giant cities in the above ground, right?
I can't wait until anime starts picking up the race realist stuff. See what they do with it.
Ah, that's going to be strange.
The Gurren Lagann creator takes on the JQ. I would watch that show.
Maybe they already did. Maybe that was Kill la Kill.
I would buy that.
Substitute clothing for dollar bills or something like that. And it's
you can do that because clothing is semiotics, and so is money.
So it's an alien parasite that tricked you into wearing clothes and sucking at your life force and slurping up all your loosh. And the only way you can beat it is by wearing really skimpy clothes. So you do enough to get the job, but not enough to where they take over you.
Yeah, okay.
I don't know if it'll stick, but I think it's close enough that you could do a joke post about it. A tongue-in-cheek kind of Chateau Artiste kind of thing.
Yeah. I mean, it's more of an hedonist kind of thing, low E.
Mm-hmm.
although you can read like Overwatch hierarchy stuff in there, but I think you could, especially because, like I said, clothing taken as symbolic of status, in the same way that money is. You could make a pretty good case for that.
Well, that works. All right.
I'm glad you did the Gurren Lagann bit there. That was fun.
Hey, I like doing the free association thing, and sometimes you come up with things that you would not have thought about that actually work.
Man, we need to do a Gurren Lagann analysis someday, because there's some good psychological stuff in there.
Well, it's the manliest show in the world. It tells you how to live your life, and it's you got to eat shit and get punched in the face, and then do impossible things, even though it sucks. And the struggle is noble, and even if you fail, the next generation will push it that much farther, and eventually you will win, no matter what your opponent. It's a nice message.
It is good. It's very... Jordan Peterson would like that show, if he weren't a boomer.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of good things, it's Father's Day. Thank you, dads. Dads are great. Single moms suck. Boo, single moms.
Boo, single moms.
Yay, dads and two-parent households. Today we celebrate.
Oh.
Say that one more time.
Oh, okay. I said we support dads on this show.
Yes, we support dads on this show. God willing, we will be dads on this show.
Yep. But then we won't have time to do the show, so...
No.
But that would be a sacrifice.
You just train your kids to be competent at things. Like, people underestimate kids because all of their energy is spent in goofing off and doing dangerous things without supervision, and then you have to supervise them. But, like, I'm pretty sure kids have the capability of making their own food and cleaning up after themselves and having a good time and not getting killed. And it's just a lack of discipline, and people at work all the time, all that kind of stuff. There's not enough time to teach people about that.
I mean, you can pull it if you got a good wife. So,
train your woman, train your children.
That's right.
Get your house in perfect order. Fight the dragons of chaos.
Get all your grapefruits in the pillowcase in perfect order.
Yes. That is a pro tip.
So
if you ever have problems, 4 grapefruit in a pillowcase, they don't leave bruises and they hurt like hell.
That's the answer to the question everybody should have asked.
Yes.
You're welcome.
You're welcome. Just a little Father's Day miracle. And okay, so we have the Kinsuimo questions eventually. And we also have a little bit of a skit here, if you want to start doing the reading for that. Because we're at 48 minutes, so it's getting close to the hour and a half kind of time limit.
All right, let's take a quick break so I can go to the bathroom.
Okay.
We'll make a little timestamp there, and then we'll come back and do the skit.
Okay. The joke's on him. I'm not going to edit anything. Little does Aoli know that when he goes to the bathroom, this entire thing will still be running.
Ugh.
Timestamp or no.
I'm still here, though.
Okay, well, I'll wait another 20 seconds, and then I'll do my bit. But no, I ain't editing shit. You don't like it? Well, that's too bad. What do we got here? So we still got on the list, if you guys are still with us, we've got a little comedy skit that we're going to read off, and Aoli is going to be a woman and also Jordan Peterson. He's doing those voices. And then we've got the cure for cancer after that, so stick around. I'm doing a radio announcer thing now and talking to myself. I do think it's kind of like, it's a thing you gotta do. You can't just have dead silence on a talk thing, because then people, why are you listening to an audio recording if it's nothing but dead silence? So you gotta say something during this time. And I don't even know if it matters what. If you listen carefully, you can hear the water running of this dude peeing in the background.
All right. I don't know what was going on there, but I disavow. I disavow everything that was said.
You disavow everything that was said? Okay.
Yep.
That's fair. So, are you back? Are you refreshed? Are you ready for this bit?
I'm so ready.
Maybe
my body is ready.
One of these days, these would be pre-recorded segments that we splice into our radiocast, but that day is not today.
Like the music.
Yeah. But okay, I'll start this thing. We're taking you to a different place in time, a different world. Let me. In a world where supernatural monsters wreak havoc on local property values, only one small business can combat these otherworldly forces. Cletus Arcanus stars in Wizards with Shotguns. Our scene opens at Shotgun HQ. Whew, I'm glad it's a slow day. My copy of Enchantress Illustrated just got here, and it's the swimsuit edition.
Ring, 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 motherfucker.
Oh, piss. Beep. Hello, Wizards with Shotguns.
Help! There's a fanged beast eating my baby.
That sounds real bad, ma'am. Can you describe the monster? It will help us know how to treat your problem. It got glowing eyes or anything? Is there a sulfur smell around the house?
I don't smell any sulfur, no, but it's got this massive square face, vacant eyes, slack-jawed, vicious teeth, and when it bites, it never lets go.
That's not a demon, ma'am. That's a pit bull. You want animal control, I will text you the number. Click. Now let's see. 555-553-5553. There. Now, I can read my magazine.
Ring, ring. Ring, ring, motherfucker.
Alright, hold your hellhounds. Beep. Hello, Wizards with Shotguns?
Oh, hello? Hello, I need help to slay a dragon. It's right outside my house.
Hold on. Now, is it a dragon or a wyvern? Can you look outside and see if it's got 2 legs and wings or 4 legs and wings? And is it breathing fire of any particular color by any chance?
Oh, well, it's more like an amalgamation of all possible dragons. It's an embodiment of the chaos of the unknown. I have my house in perfect order. Well, as perfect as you can get it, because, well, you're human, and you're weak, and some things are going to get past you.
Tiamat, eh? Yeah, we can handle those, but that's going to be a big job. I can get you an estimate, but chaos amalgamation's a little unpredictable. I'm sure you understand. We'll need some time to prep this. Can we get you in for next Thursday?
Oh, well, first, I'd have to clarify what you mean by time. The future is inherently unpredictable, so I would have to qualify that as far as my limited perception can comprehend. But I have the intention of meeting you at a certain day.
It's one of those guys. Listen, sir, I've got you in for next Thursday, Mr.
Bleederson. Morgan Bleederson.
Okay, Mr. Bleederson, we will call you to confirm the day before. Have a good afternoon.
Well, it's important to be conscientious of the...
All right, that's taken care of. I'll just put that in my calendar, and,
Ring, 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 motherfucker.
Man, is it Walpurgis night or something? It is busy for a Wednesday. Beep. Hello, Wizards with Shotguns.
So there's this guy that's just, like, bit my neck. I asked him to get off, and he keeps explaining how technically he belongs there. Then he's, like, sucking something out of me, man.
Sucking something out of you? What, like blood?
Nah, man, like, I'm not dizzy or nothing, but it's so weird. My bank account keeps going down every time I check it. I was going to call the bank, but I figured I should get this guy off my neck first, you know?
Mm-hmm. This guy on your neck, does he have a long nose?
Oh, yeah, totally. It's huge.
Uh-huh, yeah. Curly hair?
Oh, wait, dude. He totally does have curly hair. How did you know?
Yeah. Well, I do know what's eating at you. Come on down to shop. We have an aerosol for that kind of thing.
You mean like a spray can, man?
No, no, it's more like a gas.
Oh, far out. I'm like half hour away. Let me get my things. I'll be right out. Thanks, Mr. Shotguns.
No problem, sir. See you real soon. Click. Just another day at the office, and it looks like I have just enough time to sneak a peek at some enchantresses. Oh, Jennifer, you naughty girl. I tell you what, you can cast a spell on me any day. When the world is in danger of demons burning your nice drapes, who do you call? Wizards with shotguns. And that's the skit.
I enjoyed that.
That was fun. I liked the idea so much that I actually spent, 15 minutes writing a script for it.
Yeah, it was good.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think one of my voices might change halfway through, but I'm pretty happy.
They're magical. They're magical accents. It's just expected for magic to change every now and then.
Oh, you know what? That makes perfect sense.
A wizard did it. A wizard with shotgun.
I can't wait to hear what happens on the next episode.
Yeah. I think on the next episode, I have to write the next episode.
Yeah, joke's on you.
Shit.
I'll help out. I'll be the big ideas guy, and you can be details man.
Well, you did do the Bleederson pretty good. That was most of the words from that were your improv from the last time too, and we got through it without laughing this time. That's good too.
Also
Thanks,
proud of
dads.
All right. So how about these wizards cure cancer next?
Oh yeah. So we're curing cancer. Do you want to do a Kinsuimo question, and then cure cancer?
I could do this one that I don't have an answer for.
Well, that makes perfect sense.
I'm not that good at my job. It was about gold diggers, so I thought that would be fun.
Gold diggers.
Yeah, our gold. Okay, so he says, do you think gold diggers, in an analogous fashion to alchemists, exert undue material influence despite being utterly solipsistic? That is, the material movement of money, but on a different scale, obviously. Does it have a primarily semiotic purpose in their minds? So, what is the deal with chicks and money?
The semiotics of gold diggers. That's going to have to be one of the things that's the topic that we cover here.
Yep. And the answer is, I don't know. I don't understand gold diggers. I'm not sure if they are solipsistic, because if you're going to be a good gold digger, you have to be a seductress, right?
Mm-hmm.
And seducing people requires a non-solipsistic view, because you have to actually understand them and then fill their needs and so on.
Yeah, you have to know the other person to manipulate them. Like, if you don't know anything about somebody, you end up throwing random shit that does not stick.
Yeah. So, okay, I'm starting to warm up to this. So, does it have a primarily semiotic purpose in their minds? I think yes, in the sense that the point of money to a woman is signaling. So they're going to buy stuff that shows off how wealthy they are, right?
Mm-hmm.
But is that going to influence on society?
I would think the point of money is also drugs and food and booze and having a good time. Like, it's not just signaling if doing blow is not virtue signaling, it's doing blow. I think sometimes the drug is just a drug.
I think, yeah, but when it comes to status...
But like Louis Vuitton bags, 100% signaling. I can agree, that kind of thing.
I think that's just what they're more interested in. So it's in terms of gold diggers versus like a party girl or something.
Oh, okay.
So I don't think that they're going to exert a purposeful thing on society. Like they aren't going to have in mind some philosophy that they're trying to recreate the world in their image or whatever.
Mm-hmm. They're not drawing out alchemical circles or trying to change the world. They're just kind of getting their bit.
So are they effective at doing something that they aren't trying to do? And I think the answer is going to be yes, because they all have all gold diggers basically are going to follow the same motivations, the same plan of action, and they're going to have the same effect, which is probably going to be relatively strong, because they're influencing the biggest influencers in the world.
Yeah, it's
so what
kind
is
of
it going to
weird.
be?
Somebody was talking about that one Food Network guy that killed himself
Bourdain?
recently. Yeah. That one of the reasons he might have killed himself is that his girl was sleeping around on him. And his last, like, he's been through a couple divorces and they always kind of fucking killed him. He got really wrapped up into it and then he got divorced and it was the end of the world. So this was another one of those.
Well,
And
I don't trust it. I don't know nothing, and I don't trust it.
But there is definitely, like, rich and powerful people still have weak spots for the women's. And there was, I was reading something about Napoleon would actually sack entire cities to get back to his mistress or his wife or whatever. And then she would be like, I don't want you now. And he'd be like, you woman, you son of a bitch! And he just didn't know what to do with that.
That was one of the examples Robert Greene used in his book Seduction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's where I got that from. And
Yeah,
so,
that was a
like,
good story.
when you can just be like, oh, I changed my mind. I don't want this cat food. And you do that to a guy that's in control of, like, the Emperor of France, and you're just like, yeah, I marched through 3 cities, and you're not hungry anymore? You fucking bitch. So...
And I just want to say, still is the Emperor of France in our hearts.
Yes. We love you, Napoleon. We love you, dads.
We love dads who are also Bonapartists. Never lose the dream.
Royalist dad is a royalist Chad.
There you go. That one probably exists too.
Yeah.
I'm so far behind on all this stuff.
So
the dad Chad, that one might not exist. If it doesn't, we need to make it. That would be good. The Chad dad versus the virgin.
Or the Chad dad, the virgin dad versus the Chad virgin? No. The virgin dad versus the dad virgin?
I'm getting confused.
I'm gonna have to. There's a weird one that was a spark there, but I've got to focus. We got to do this other thing. Physically turn my head away from that thought.
Right. I mean, we made world peace in my podcast with Patrick, so we at least need to cure cancer.
The semiotics of Golddiggers. Damn, you got world peace just the other week? We're going to have to catch up here. Well, with war off the table, that's really the only other way you can save the world is by curing cancer and all known diseases. So I guess we got to get started.
Mm-hmm. And the way we're going to do that was by hacking the gold digger instinct.
Yeah.
To influence the influencers to fund this podcast.
Yes. You know what? At the core of our philosophy, it is really undeniable that people that like to do long-winded explanations of obscure esoteric topics really just need a higher up place in society and more money and
totally.
more women.
Right. I think actually we should restructure the political system to favor people who contribute to this particular area.
Right. We need a giant education fund, and instead of colleges getting it, it needs to be internet podcasters that get it. Because really, all the intellectual achievement is happening through bloggers and amateurs and hobbyists, so you just need to sprinkle that with your secret sauce.
That's right. Add capital.
Add capital.
And you can do that at a link about on blog. And I promise Blown Flower will get a pittance. I'll get some of it.
Yes, we both have cash tags. He has a cash tag on his blog now.
That's right. We could actually do that.
I might link these cash tags in the video thing too, if you want to shower us with filthy lucre for curing cancer and talking about the Semiotics of Golddiggers and Wizards with Shotguns. You can take your pick.
We could also just become merchants.
Mm-hmm. Get some T-shirts. So what is the answer to the Semiotics of Golddiggers? So they do exert more influence than you would think. Indirectly, they don't consciously want to exert influence on the material world, but they do because thirsty dudes, even the rich and powerful, get thirsty sometimes if they get really seduced.
I don't know. Maybe there's some sort of trickle-down hipster economics thing going on where they fund boutique purse stores.
Trickle down. Well,
So-
Louis Vuitton, like I said. So trickle down hookernomics.
High-end hooker.
Yeah,
We're talking about some classy whores.
yeah. You can
So,
always tell
maybe
the
they make
difference
everything a little bit
between-
nicer because
Yeah.
they like nice things.
So if you get a taste for the finer things in life, and then you suitably motivate the men around you to provide the finer things in life, that creates a market that otherwise would not exist.
There you go.
And on the lower end of this, I hear that women control about 60% of household spending in all households, or more, like maybe even 80%. So there is a lot of demand created by women that use their pussy powers to open up the wallets.
That's probably going to be... I wonder if that just remains constant over time. Because if you think about how much more purchasing power they have from their jobs these days
Mm-hmm.
versus before they had to extract dribble of sex, right?
Well, I think it would go
But
up.
now they're...
It'd be even higher, because before it was, well, I'm basically paying all the, like, I'm buying all the things because I want it, and I have all of my life to extract this stuff. What am I trying to say? Before, it's like, don't you love me? Why won't you buy these things? Now it's, well, this is my money. I can do what I want with it. And also, don't you love me? Why won't you buy me all these things, right? It's both at the same time. So it will go higher.
I'm not really sure which direction it would go. I do know it would be different. It's
Mhm.
like you got more money going to apartments now instead of houses.
Mm-hmm.
You got more money going to yoga pants.
Yeah.
For some reason, that's absolutely necessary.
Yoga pants are great, man. Well, for certain people.
Yoga pants are like they're becoming like office attire and casual attire now for some reason.
That's really weird.
Just yeah, I don't know if that's like any better in the South or whatever, but yeah,
Well-
it's bad. You see them on like 6-year-olds now.
Yeah, that's a little too much. All the short shorts and things on kids is too much. But like, my family was complaining, you just can't buy normal clothes anymore. That might be a market opportunity, is like, we actually make skirts again. Long skirts, even. We have shorts that go to your knee. What the fuck? That might be a new place, a new thing in this world.
It's worth considering.
Mm-hmm.
I still wear my cargo shorts from 10 years ago, so I'm living that 90s dream still.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, shit, it's 2018. 10 years ago is 2008.
Yeah.
These shorts might be older than I was thinking.
Somebody
I-
was like,
I don't
the
know if you can
Matrix
compete
was
with the
20
Chinese.
years ago.
Oh, man.
Yeah, Star Wars is as old as your grandparents now, or something like that.
Yeah, that one sounds about right. It was late end of the 70s, I think.
Mm-hmm. I was looking at that. There was a video game, and I was like, oh shit, Final Fantasy is almost as old as I am now. Final Fantasy VII, like the game that was when I was a kid, and it's like, whoa, that game it's 20 years old. Fuck.
Oh, but it's aged so well.
Mm-hmm.
Look at those graphics.
It's actually not bad. Like,
Oh, it's actually still a very good game.
yeah.
They-
The thing with RPGs is that the game systems themselves are fairly low end. Like, they don't take a lot of hardware to do the systems. And the art style lasts a little bit longer than the actual game. Like,
Yeah, the art direction was phenomenal in that game.
mm-hmm.
Really, all the Final Fantasies.
Yeah, but like
okay, not all. Just the good ones. The art direction was phenomenal.
the statically drawn backgrounds, and then your chunky characters that you like. The chunky characters are still okay. They are just low res enough to be kind of like sprites in your mind, where you're like, this is not supposed to look good. It's just a brick. Some of the medium in ones, like the PS2 era,
Mm-hmm.
sometimes those actually start looking really weird because they have the
You're talking that Uncanny Valley stuff?
kind of.
Okay, you know what was wrong with those guys is that... So, Final Fantasy X,
Mm-hmm.
right? Art direction in that was not as good. Their costumes looked silly.
Yeah. It stopped being cool and started being fucking gay.
Yeah, I don't know what went wrong with the guy who started drawing on that and just kept going.
Let's just make everybody's shorts 2 different lengths. So
Let's make a dress entirely out of belts. They'll love it.
I like the belt dress actually. That was Lulu, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had issues with that dress.
It would be really hard to clean and to get in and out of. It's just a bunch of buckles. It's like, why would you even have that? It'd probably be really heavy.
I was not... I didn't begin to appreciate that there were good parts to that game until well afterward.
Mm-hmm.
When I played through it a second time, like 10 years later,
Mm-hmm.
when I started getting into like symbolic significance of stuff, and I was like, okay, there are good things here. But the first time I played through it, I was thinking to myself the entire time, never again, no more Final Fantasies. It's dead.
They ruined
You remember that laughing scene?
Oh yeah, no, that's a meme. You just gotta laugh really hard, even though it's bad. Ha 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 ha. Well, okay. Speaking of cancer, let's cure cancer real quick. I've been mentioning this. So here is the thing. Cancer. This is the thing you need to know about cancer. Just like that they told you. So people were like, saturated fat is bad for you, and it turns out to be almost cardioprotective. If you eat straight red meat all day and avoid sugar, you're better than 80% of the people out in the world right now for heart health.
Yep, and you won't get sick.
So, chemo and radiation treatment is one of the worst things you can possibly do for cancer. It is really bad. It kills you. It destroys your immune system. It literally, like, they even tell you when you're doing it. It's like, well, we're just hoping we kill the cancer faster than we kill you. That's it. Right? Your hair falls out. Everybody has their cancer thing. Like, it's become its own myth, almost. This is what you have to do when you get cancer.
Mm-hmm. And then you have your struggle thing, and then if you get through it, you write the book.
Yeah, well, what's weird is that cancer has spontaneously healed since 1742. It's been in the medical literature, where people just wake up and their cancer's gone. They don't know why. And people have started noticing this. So in the 60s, there was a guy named Dr. Warren Cole, it looks like. I'm reading through this article here that I'm going to post in the thing. But so this guy started looking up these different spontaneous healing things and started looking at what actually happened, right? And he found out that when people had cancer and then they were in the hospital and for whatever reason, maybe they had a surgery and they got infected or they just got really sick, people would get these really high fevers that would last 2 weeks, and then when they got to the other end of that fever, their tumor was gone. It was just gone. Are you still with me on this?
Yeah. I was just thinking to myself, nothing new under the sun here.
Mm-hmm.
Turns out your body
can heal the thing.
Stuff, and it has an immune system.
Your immune system works if you.
It's called the immune system.
If you let it do things, it'll fix things for you. Wait, you don't even need 800 drugs? Well, this guy found out that if you give somebody really big fevers, your tumor goes away, assuming you live through the fever, right? But the problem is having giant bacterial infections that lead to fevers is its own health risk, right?
Makes sense.
So that is, that can kill you too. It's not necessarily a clear trick. So what he did is he found some attenuated vaccines. He took dead, he grew the bacteria, killed it, and it still stimulated the immune response, right?
When you said vaccines, I was just immediately on board with this plan.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the vaccines is no good, but it's technically a toxin. Well, that makes it better. It was called Coley's toxins.
My principle says more vaccines, more autism.
Yeah, okay.
More principles.
So we're cool with this. But so they developed a thing called Coley's toxins, which is a bunch of killed bacteria that would still give you a huge fever and have your body freak out. And at the end of the huge fever and your body freaking out, your immune system went way up and it cured the cancer. And that was better than anything at the time. The guy had the best record of treating cancer in the country, and nobody fucking knows about it.
Yeah, so naturally, the free market does not kick in because people want to solve their problems.
Having a cheap-ass vaccine and going through 2 weeks of fever is not as good as having really expensive, drawn-out chemo treatments. I mean, that's way more money for the chemo. And
Cyan Magistry, I believe this is called.
As we've seen, corporations don't actually care about profits so much as they care about signaling on random shit. Like, there are personal concerns that override even the profit motive. So I
can't wait for when they come out with the study that says vegetables are bad for you.
Oh, man. They're already trying, I don't know. I think I'm more worried that people are going to come up with keto things that are just straight seed oils. Be like, it's sugar-free canola oil. It's good for you because it's got no saturated fat. And I'm going to have to choke somebody. I learned a good choke for it, too, the other day.
The Gable grip.
Yeah. Well, the Gable grip is what locks that choke on. And then you hit them with your wrist blade. And you just crush their windpipe with that. You just kind of like put the squeeze on them. You just it's like it's the Princess Bride killer, because you basically snuggle up behind them and choke them to death. But that's neither here nor there. But
nice term, that.
So the first one, the first cure for cancer is getting a giant ass fever and preferably having it induced by Coley's toxins or something that will give you a fever without an actual infection. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And so this is the one way to do it, and it stimulates your immune system, and that's how it works. And isn't it funny that chemo and radiation destroy your fucking immune system? Isn't it strange that the treatments for cancer do the exact opposite of what these guys are doing and suppress your immune system? That sounds like it might even make it worse. But I'm just some random internet podcast dude. This is not medical advice, by the way.
Yeah, strong disclaimer.
I am not qualified to fuse your spine together and call it a good thing.
You're against the spinal fusion stuff too?
Yeah.
I've like one of Taleb's things.
I've talked to a couple people that had spinal fusion, or that was in that area, and it's like, don't ever fucking do it. I've known people that have done it, and they can't bend over, and their pain is just the same. Don't fuse your fucking bones together. There's a reason that they aren't fused in the first place. So it's like, I'm not medically qualified to addict you to painkillers. All I can do is tell you about scientific studies and have you make up your own mind. You know, I'm no professional. I don't get paid by the drug. You can tell I have a huge opinion about the medical industry.
It is kind of funny how much of medicine appears to come down to immune systems, inflammation, and decent living.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's the thing, is that everything's connected. The magic pill that does the thing is not usually the magic pill that does the thing. It just, a lot of the various drugs, the reason they originally had prescription drugs is because prescriptions were deemed to be more dangerous than alcohol. If it was less dangerous than alcohol, it was over the counter and it was everybody. If it was more dangerous than that, you had to go to a doctor, because the idea was that you weren't supposed to get it unless you had no other choice, because it was so terrible for you. But that got turned around to be like, oh, it's the good stuff because you have to get a doctor to give it to you, right?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, if you hide it in the closet, it's not the bad stuff, it's the top shelf stuff, because that's how people think. It was really a good marketing thing for them.
I didn't realize that was a marketing thing. I just don't trust anything.
I don't think it was intentionally. Like I said, the original point was that some of the over-counter drugs were actually bad for you, so they wanted to do FDA approval and make sure the drugs were safe before they released it to people. So if it had a prescription, it was more dangerous than alcohol and should only be used in very specific circumstances, not like an over-the-counter thing like a Tylenol or an aspirin. But it's kind of funny.
I don't even take those.
The first thing that went through that approval process caused a shit ton of birth defects, and it was actually horrible for you. So good job. Off to a great start. But anyway, so that's the first way to cure cancer. This theoretically works for everything. It probably works for different things. If you have pancreatic cancer, it's probably not as good for you, just because the shittiest cancers probably need, they're harder to get rid of in general, so it would make sense that the thing that helps might not help as much. But or
maybe it helps more. Who knows?
There are many published cases of tumors arising along the route taken by a biopsy needle. So it's like if you get your tumor biopsied, that's a good chance it's going to get metastasized and spread through the rest of your body. Oh,
wonderful!
So the basic diagnostic test will give you extra cancer. They did a study of different treatment methods, and they found that if you went to an African medicine man and he shuck a maraca over your head, you had a better chance of living than most of the gold standard of modern medicine, of chemotherapy and radiation.
Do you have to believe it so you get the placebo effect, or are we just talking like
they were doing a
group
thing? They were saying these are all the different people that get cancer. So you have people that get cancer in Africa. The survival rate is X. Their treatment is X. When the people get treated over here, their survival rate is this. That kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
So they were like, if you were a hypothetical person getting cancer, you would. It's one of those things where it's like it's better to be born in the U.S. than it is in Africa. If you happen to be that way, you're in a good spot.
No. I don't believe that. Noble savages.
So it's like, if you happen to get cancer, it would be better for you to get cancer in Africa and have a fucking shaman man throw some deer blood at you or whatever they do and shake a medicine stick over your head. That is actually better for you than getting chemotherapy and radiotherapy. And the funny thing is there's a thing called the standard of care, where you have a default treatment, and any time you deviate from that default treatment, you damn well have a good reason for it, or you're going to lose your license and you could be liable. So, even people trying out alternative treatments have to give them a little chemotherapy and a little radiotherapy. Otherwise, it's
just
illegal.
A little bit of poison.
Right. It's illegal to not poison you if you have cancer. That is where we're at. And you think if the most high-profile, biggest thing, cancer, the thing that everybody is paying attention to, that is very important, that if this treatment is so fucking terrible, what wouldn't be fucking terrible up there? Like, Tex Arcane talked about, don't get steroid shots in your knee because you don't feel the pain, it destroys your knee, and then they do a knee replacement, right? That's exactly what it's for. The point of the steroid shot is to destroy your knee to get the knee replacement. And, do some squats and deadlifts or something, right?
Makes me wonder when the last time humans executed an adaptation was.
Well, I'm executing an adaptation by fucking all of these established systems, doing squats and deadlifts, and not getting sick. My adaptation is to say, fuck you, I'm going to do the opposite of what you're going to tell me to do, just because I don't like you. And that's worked out pretty okay so far.
I didn't realize that's why I was doing that.
Yeah. You don't consciously make the decision to do better than other people. You just get pushed that way by instincts. And so you're like, you know what? I like red meat, and I don't like listening to other people telling me what to eat. Whatever. I'm going to live. And then you happen to live longer than everybody else, and you're just like, cool. Being stubborn is a gift.
Well, I'm blessed with the unusual trait of really enjoying broccoli.
Mm-hmm. The broccoli's good, man. It is tasty. Especially in, like, stir-fry or something. But broccoli and cheese is...
Just embedded in a stick of butter.
Yes. You just put a stick of butter in literally everything. Just throw a stick of butter in it. I've put a stick of butter in a pound of ground beef before.
Really?
Yeah. And then I throw a bunch of vegetables in it. So it kind of soaks it up.
Yeah, if you're doing... Okay, so... Caveat for all you paleo freaks out there, like myself. If you're going to be eating as much saturated fat as we talk about eating, you got to bring up your fiber.
Yeah, so...
Or you're going to have some trouble passing it.
Pro tip, eat bananas. Make a banana smoothie. Put some strawberries and bananas and some milk in a blender. Maybe with... Or strawberries and bananas and orange juice in a blender if you want. Freeze the bananas and it turns into an ice cream. And then you can poop again. That's the magic.
Bananas, veggies, and I'm personally a big fan of oatmeal for getting more.
Mm-hmm. Oatmeal gets you more. What does it get you more of? Shit.
Or if you're on the go, you could get those double fiber bars. That's not so bad. I've done that. You got to be careful with those. Because they taste like candy, but if you eat too many of them, you're going to have a bad time. No.
Okay, so here's my second curing
Ask
cancer
me
thing.
Ask me where I get all of my knowledge.
Before we go right down the shitter, let's cure cancer a second time real quick. So, this is a news article, but this is an experimental treatment that just literally just cured somebody's cancer. This is modern day. This isn't, well, it had 20 different successful treatments in the 60s and then people just stopped paying attention to it. It's not an ancient cure that totally works, but you're going to have to dig up somewhere. This is a bleeding edge cure that is an experimental kind of thing, which makes it better, right? Prototypes are always better than the mass-produced models.
Absolutely. I can feel the white coat on the other guy on the other end of this idea right now.
Yeah. So, a cancer patient given just 3 months to live is cured by experimental treatment. Thanks Trump, and thank you dads. So, where is it? So this lady, Judy Perkins, had a mastectomy, had all of her lymph nodes removed, and went through chemotherapy and hormonal therapy. None of those fucking worked. When those methods failed to halt the spread of cancer to her chest and liver, she was sure she was going to die until she met Dr. Steven Rosenberg at the National Institutes of Health. She studied her immune cells. Rosenberg studied Perkins's immune cells, finding the right blood cells capable of detecting genetic mutations and fighting cancer. Scientists then extracted these cells, grew them in a lab, and then injected her with 90 billion of them. So instead of giving you a fever to stimulate your immune system, they pull out your immune system, grow it in a dish, and then shoot it right back into you.
Is there an upper limit on how much of your own immune system you can have?
Apparently not. 90 billion is quite a bit.
I can't think.
I would expect, like, if you do this for everything, you might end up with some autoimmune diseases. Like, you might get some false positives eventually. But for cancer, you've got plenty of space to have those guys eat on things. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And those
That's
things...
crazy.
Yeah. So here's the money quote here. I think it had been maybe 10 days since I'd gotten the cells, and I could already feel that tumor starting to get soft, Perkins told CBS. By then, I was like, dang, this is really working. So Rosenberg believes Perkins' cells are still working to keep her cancer-free. Circulating in her body are large numbers of cells we administered to her 2.5 years ago, he said. There's just one treatment that's necessary because the cells are alive. They're part of Judy. They are Judy Perkins. So, growing your own immune cells in a dish and injecting it back into you increases your immune system. It's basically the same idea as an immune system response, right? It's just the opposite direction. Instead of giving you a fever to trigger your own immune system, they grow your immune system and put it back in you. So that you don't have to get it triggered, you just have more cells growing in. It's like, it's like eating horny goat weed versus getting testosterone replacement therapy. That's how I'm going to say.
Okay.
Instead of naturally building more testosterone by lifting weights, they just slap a patch on you and give you the good stuff.
Yeah, what is it, trenbolone or something like that?
Mm-hmm. So this is another one. So this only exists because Trump did this, the guinea pig law, where it's like, well, I'm fucking dying anyway, give me your weird shit. So
yeah, why not?
Yeah, so you're allowed to do things that aren't approved by the FDA, experimental shit drugs. You can do those if you're already having a terminal illness and they've exhausted everything else, right? If you're gonna die anyway, you might as well test our new drugs for us. That is the cynical version of it. The good version, the optimistic version of it is that things that would work but need another $3 billion to get through the approval process can work right now for you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you get free test subjects too.
Mm-hmm. So everybody wins, kind of, sort of.
Everybody wins sometimes, and the rest of the time, it's like, there's no opportunity.
And then the rest of the time, they were going to die anyway, right? So, it comes out in the wash. I'm waiting for the point where people start deliberately getting people with terminal illnesses so that they have more experiments. But I think that's going to take a long time because we've got a lot of naturally terminally ill people to run through before you run out of supplies.
I'm impressed that you were quicker to the trigger on that black pill. Farming horrible diseases to fund your research.
I'm pretty sure they already do that in developing countries. It'd just be a little bit more convenient. It's okay. All right.
No time for a black pill. Trump cured cancer. That's the takeaway.
Trump cured cancer is a takeaway. The next time somebody in your life has cancer, recommend them to the super ultra doctor that you heard of that is not a crazy quack, but is actually the best doctor in the world. And tell them it's very expensive and they have an experimental treatment that they could do. And then that might get them to actually listen to you. As long as you say it's very expensive, it's kind of new, but it's got some good results, and the doctor said it was okay, you might have a chance of getting them to change places. You don't tell them you read it on the internet, because then they will be like, well, no. You don't tell them that it's an easy thing that actually has fewer side effects, because everybody knows that if it really works, it would try to kill you.
Right. I want the pill that takes my hair out.
Yeah.
That's how badly I feel like no pain, no gain, right?
I'm really sick, so I have to at least get shot in the chest to, I've got to be almost killed to get over this sickness. That's how it works. Maybe one day it'll be different, and people will expect their cures to be very easy and convenient and, inconvenience but safe. You know what I mean? Maybe one day expectations will change, but you have to go with what the market wants right now. That's what I'm saying.
It's weird because health is the most important thing that people care about.
Mm-hmm.
Like if you do a poll about what's important to people, or some sort of consumer survey, health comes out on top. So how do we have this bass-ackwards attitude to everything health?
Well, let's look at the revealed preferences of the market here. So the idea is that health is an inelastic demand. If you're dying, you will pay infinity amount of dollars. Any amount of dollars you have, you'll pay to get better if you're dying. There is no point where you go, actually, that's really expensive. I'll just keel over and die now. Just not usually a thing that happens. Maybe if you were the kind of person that thinks about your family, but let's be honest, you're an American, and who gives a shit? You're already planning on putting your mom into a home. You don't care.
Right. You aren't leaving any of your inheritance to your kids. Why would you even do that? That's not America.
Yeah. From boomers on down, nobody really cares. And so people will spend infinite amount of their own money and infinite amount of other people's money to get themselves better. But if you notice, people don't give a shit about their bodies unless they're dying. Sleep? Whatever.
No.
I'll cut out my sleep. I don't give a shit about my sleep. I want to do whatever I'm doing tonight. Right?
Yep.
Should I work about my diet? Fuck that. Energy drinks and Lay's potato chips and whatever the fuck else I want to eat because it's my body, my choice. So there are small groups of people that actually give a shit, like racist, right-wing nut jobs, fitness bros, those, smart people. There are small groups of people that actually care about their body, but by and large, most of the time, people don't care unless they're dying, and then they care a whole lot. There are people that would rather have stomach surgery than go on a diet.
Oh, you're right.
And that is not...
I'm blackpilling so hard right now.
That is not a rare thing. That is a normal human response thing. This is a semi-functional human being response as well. I'm fat, better get the lap band because I'm not going to stop eating candy unless I physically am prevented from it by my own stomach to where I can only eat little bitty slurries of food. So I don't even feel bad about it. It's just how the system works. When I get in this mode, it's just like, okay, what are the constraints? What actually goes on? Let's frame it in the worst way possible so that we're just past that. We already agree that things happen. It's just how it is, right? So if you want to do something about it, you have to accept it as it is, and then you have to actually see what would change it. Because if you want things to be different, like... you got to
charge too much money, because that's the only way anybody's going to take you seriously.
Right. You've got to charge a shit ton of money, maybe hit them in the face with a hammer when they're under anesthesia or something so they can really feel that treatment is working, and then you do the thing that cures their cancer, once you've convinced them that it's possible.
You got the machine next to them with all the blinky lights. That's important.
It's very important. It's like the Jordan Peterson guy talking about his personality profile that was predictive of job performance. And he's like, well, we have a thing that if you do it, it will make you $1 million a year. Well, it takes an hour and a half, so nobody does it. Okay, now it takes 10 minutes, but, it's not my department. And he had to go through all these different things to realize how to actually get this across. Even though he had a great product, it was not something that human beings or that system could accept. It was not an acceptable input.
Yeah, well, how do you sell an IQ test to an employer? Apparently you can't.
Apparently you can't.
Although the Wonderlic crowd did it. I was given one of those at the weirdest possible jobs. So I was doing part-time caretaking of an apartment complex as part of my rent there. And they gave me the Wonderlic.
What is the Wonderlic?
It's a company that puts out an IQ test, which is against the law, but they do it anyway, and I guess they're allowed to get away with it. Probably they know somebody. Anyway,
it's like a little quick test.
Yeah, and it's got good results, and they use it for NFL players. That's why it's famous. So you can look up Peyton Manning's Wonderlic score or something, and estimate his IQ based on that.
Ah, cool.
Yeah, so for all things, that's the job I got that for. Not my current job, where that would actually be useful. Not any of my other jobs where you would at least be trying to predict, whether somebody's going to quit on you.
Well, that would actually I would expect a property manager to do that because real estate has some smart people in it. Some actual realistic people. Because you don't, like, nurses and health professionals learn really quick how shitty certain groups of people are because they're there.
Bam Blams.
It's not even just black people. It's just the hospitals are basically homeless shelters and maid services, and you are paying for that, and that explains why nobody can get really good health care is because everybody's sucking up all the money and all of the expertise in using it as a what is it?
Bam Blams.
It's like, hey man, so today I had to take care of a guy that we found in a dumpster somewhere that was probably high on drugs, but we couldn't tell at that point. And he wants to leave, and we have to tell him that we're not allowed to let him leave because because we found.
Can you get down there and restrain him?
We
which you're not
literally
allowed to
found
do.
him
You'll
in
get
a
in
dumpster.
trouble.
Yeah, but like we literally found this person as a dumpster. He wants to leave, and he also says his pain's a 10. And you have to take care of that human being. Well, you start realizing that every third person that comes in for an emergency is got track marks and is doing heroin in your bathroom. Like, you start realizing that some people are shit. So landlords, I think, have that same deal, is that they go, oh, yeah, we have a one-on-one relationship with the vast... Like, it's like a People of Walmart thing, except you see them at their house.
Yeah.
And so you get a little bit more
worse than
honest.
that. You have to clean up their messes.
Yes, even worse than that, you are their house.
I know a guy who got into that field and then got out of it.
Mm-hmm.
He made good money, but he said it wasn't worth the effort.
For property management or medicine?
Property management.
Mm-hmm. It's real work.
Well, it's not just that. It's just you get to see the wrong side of humanity a little too much.
Yeah. I think that's why. That's what I mean by people of Walmart accept their houses.
Just imagine. You get to see what it's like when people have checked out.
Mm-hmm.
It's like you remove all responsibility for a person's life outcomes from that person, whether it's because they got addicted to drugs and they care about nothing else, or it's just they gave up, or they realized they could never make it, like they got that 80 IQ or something.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, okay, now you expect to be taken care of. So even that little bit that you could do, you just stop.
Mm-hmm.
And there you go. That's your third of humanity.
And I don't want to call this a black pill as just something that exists, because all of the wonderful things that we like about the world happened with these people existing in it. Like, there has never really been a world where everything was great for everyone all the time. But there have been plenty of worlds where everything has been pretty good, and if you don't like it, you can always just do drugs and hate yourself, right?
Yep, the poor you will always have with you.
So, like...
that was Jesus. He knew a couple things.
He knew a couple things. So it's one of those things. It's like, this is how the world works. It's not good or bad. It just is. And holy shit, it's been an hour and 43 minutes. We got to wrap this up. Have another 2-in-1 podcast.
Yeah.
Double your curing of cancer. Double your talking about random shit. We got to leave this on a good note, though. So we cured cancer. Literally 2 cures for cancer that actually work, that have documented evidence and scientific studies backing them up. If you believe in scientific studies, I believe more about the lady that's like, yeah, my tumor just fucking went away. I cut off both my boobs and it was in my fucking lungs, and then it just stopped. That was nice. Like, that's a pretty good...
I call that a win.
That's a win. That's a good testimonial right there, right? Why don't you... Like, the thing is to get to do that first, instead of after you've cut off both your titties. Like, oh, I think I have cancer. Shoot me up with my immune cells first, and then I'll go and take all your poison and almost die. I want that to be the first choice, not the last choice.
Yeah. So something else we accomplished. Well, we didn't actually defeat the Dragon of Chaos, Tiamat, but we did schedule it.
Yeah, it's scheduled out.
Progress toward a worthy goal.
Mm-hmm. So had a good little laugh over that. Hopefully that gets fun. So let's see, what's good? Dads are good. Thank you, dads.
We're in favor.
Nice job, dads. Good job. Happy Father's Day, dads. And grandpas. You know who you are. And so there's a literal cure for cancer. We're not going to try this on AIDS because fuck those guys. But don't actually. I wonder if that would work for AIDS, though.
I don't know. I don't know anything about medicine.
Massive amounts of immune system cells that can sense AIDS. Just nom-nom-nomming them.
I found the image that we can use, the virgin dad versus the Chad dad.
Ah, okay. Yeah. It's all Chad dads over here. So, did all that good stuff. What is a good thing that you like about the world right now? I would think coffee shops and or coffee in general would be a good starter point.
Blender barn. Yeah, there are not a lot of things I need in life, and coffee shops is one of them.
Okay, so thank you, coffee shops and coffee in general. I like chocolate covered espresso beans, like coffee beans. I don't like coffee itself, but I do like literally just grinding up coffee beans in chocolate. Yeah. You'll come back. They always come back.
Not out of this grave insult. When Jesus invented coffee, we've been over this. When Jesus invented coffee, he intended us to drink it black and all of the time.
Thank you, Jesus, for coffee.
Thank you, Jesus, for coffee.
I have the urge to go to a McCafe right now. Get an iced Java Chapaloopa, whatever they call it.
Nice chupacabra.
A mocha chupacabra. I like computers and video games and all that kind of stuff. I like electronics. It's 10 out of 10 would have been again.
Yeah, me too.
I'm thankful for it because I get to talk with all these people. You get to talk with dudes over the world that you would never have seen before, and they turn out to be pretty cool dudes.
Yeah. Isn't that crazy?
Mm-hmm. And it's also like, it's like rediscovering, like you wouldn't be able to have a Thal community because they're so spread out and isolated, and then you get to reconnect and rebuild your life a little bit.
Yeah, but we still gotta figure out how to find them IRL.
Mm-hmm.
That's another separate project.
That's another fund somewhere down the line.
I got to figure out how to game these talls.
Mm-hmm.
Where do you find them? Where do you find them? And then how do you get them out of the basement?
That's true. We'll just have to
That's a different project.
We'll have to start kidnapping people. That's all it is.
Start? Yeah, well, start.
Start. Yeah, we'll have to start doing that. No, what's gonna have to happen is it's gonna have to, like, the front end of it is gonna look like a dumping ground, like a nursing home for spurgs. You know what I mean? It's a place you dump off your kids to not think about them anymore. And it looks like that. It looks like this is a place where they can just kind of sit in a room and be comfortable while you don't think about them anymore. And then
this is a great topic, but this is turning into the longest outro ever. Do we want to?
And then
want to give up on ending?
The other side of that, it's like a Narnia thing, and then you actually have your Thal homeland. Like in the front, it's kind of a nursing home kind of deal, and they're like, okay, this is pretty consistent. They're not going to try to change my kid or cure him. They're just going to keep him comfortable while I don't have to worry about him anymore.
They're just going to dump him up with Adderall.
Yeah, he can't be better without me. He needs to be the same. So I don't want him to actually be better, because then I'd have to come back and reintegrate him in my life, and I want to be through. And then on the other side, it's like trees and stumps and everything. It's like, am I going to be sleeping in this featureless room for the rest of my life? You'd be like, haha, no, kid. We've got a stump picked out for you. Oh my god, it's like living in Narnia. That's the idea, son. Champ.
Look under your chair. It's a door to Narnia, and your very own tree stump.
You get a tree stump. You get a tree stump. You get a tree stump. You get a tree stump. Everybody gets a tree stump.
I'm going to say right now, policy: no meth. No meth.
No meth.
In your tree stump.
These are gonna have integrated. These are gonna have like a
Not
rocket
allowed.
stove or something. No meth to heat you up in your tree stumps.
Our version of case selection does not have drugs in
See,
it.
that's the other thing is you have to be really careful about because they're dysfunctional people that have various ways of dealing with that. So you'd have to watch for the drugs and the other stuff coming into that community.
This community is going to be 100% no drugs.
Yeah, definitely.
We are
that.
against.
Definitely that. But it'd have
Unless
to.
unless Tech said that he uses it. So you can use aspirin. That's allowed.
Yeah. Aspirin and vitamin K, that's an okay thing. But like, so you'd have to start with the high performing cases before you start getting the really bad people, and just kind of ramp up your facilities so you can handle worse and worse treatments, and the surrounding, Pony Empire community will make you conform. You'll be assimilated into this high functioning Spurg society. Whereas if you immediately pulled in a bunch of semi-broken dudes, you would just end up creating a semi-broken community. It's like a gradient. It's like a gradient.
I'm just imagining this beautiful place with these tree stumps and all of the wires in between them with the fiber optic cables.
Internet-connected tree stumps. If you want to imagine a beautiful future, you just internet-connected tree stumps as far as the eye can see, and various community gardens that everybody has specific rules for who is supposed to do it when. And very rigid wake up and go to sleep times. Very structured days.
I don't know if I can be on board with the rigid wake up and sleep times. I think I would want that to be something where best practice evolves, but okay, now I'm going back on that because
it was mostly a reference to the trains are fine guy.
Oh, okay. See, I'm going back on that one because now I'm thinking, well, if you let people come to their own conclusions on things, eventually it's just going to be a drug commune.
Yeah, you have to have a little bit of structure, and you have to have a little bit of this is how it is here, and then you have to you balance it out with giving people tree stumps and the freedom to live life in a completely different way, and to get sunlight, and also to have computers, and also Magic the Gathering cards.
All right. End of podcast?
All right. I think that's about it. So, in conclusion, cured cancer, thanked dads, thanked Trump, thanked Jesus for coffee, wizards with shotguns, answering questions from the community. Send in more questions and we might do this again. Have a bunch of different links in the description, into the comments about some of the different resources we were talking about. And howdy ho, neighbor.
Yep. See ya. Don't do drugs.
Don't do drugs. All right. And done.